My name is Daisy Osgei Mugera. I am born again. I love Christ as my Lord and Savior. I am married. I am a mother. And I am a banker by profession. But most of all, and the reason why I'm here, I am the founder of Dear Little Sister Foundation and an author of this book, Dear Little Sister Book. Dear Little Sister Book is a novel or a novelette. It's a small novel, and it talks about a girl who got pregnant as a teenager, the challenges she went through. And the reason why I wrote this book is because I am so passionate about reaching out to young girls, especially in school. And there are so many. So with a book, you can reach thousands of them without being there physically. So in this story, it is written in first-person narrative, and I put myself in the shoes of this girl who went through several challenges. Her education was paused for a moment because of teenage pregnancy, but because of a Good Samaritan, she was able to go back to school and relive her dreams. So there are so many lessons in this book of how a girl can avoid the challenges associated with teenage pregnancy, how a girl can avoid being a teenage mother, and lessons, because now this is like an experience, someone who has gone through teenage pregnancy, advising others who are not teenage mothers yet not to become teenage mothers. Dear Little Sister Foundation is an idea that I had from way back when I was growing up. The reason why I started the foundation is because my sister became a teen mom when we were growing up. And that was several years back. I was still a teenager as well, and there was very little I could do then. But it was a very tricky situation. It brought so much instability to our home. My mom was very broken, and for a moment it made me feel what would happen to my mom if any one of us, because I am the second born in a family of 6. We are 5 girls, and my sister, who became a teen mom, was the first born. So there are 3 other girls behind me. So I thought there should be a way of speaking to my younger sisters and challenging them that we should make our mom proud and restore the hope that she had almost lost. You see, when your girl who is 16 years becomes pregnant and a mother and drops out of school, there is so much questions that goes on in your mind, so many questions. So I thought I would speak to my little sisters. I would urge them to, first of all, I would start with myself by purposing not to be a teen mom and to make my parents proud, and then now go back and speak to my sisters and challenge them to also not become teen moms. And when I started talking to them, when I looked at my neighborhood, my village, there were so many other girls who were getting pregnant as teenagers. So I thought it would be prudent not to just end the project at my home, but to pass it on to my neighbors. And then as I grew up, when I went to college, I realized actually the problem is not just in my village, it is in the entire country. As it stands, the latest statistics are shocking. The latest research says that about 18% of girls in Kenya become young moms or teenage moms. COVID-19 has made it even worse because of a lot of free time and stuff like that. So after clearing the university, I had purposed in my heart that I would, because in the past I didn't have time, I didn't have the resources, I had so much desire and passion to go back home and start the project. But because of limited resources and time, it waited until after college. That is when we did the first project in 2017. We did the first physical meeting, and after that I published this book, which I had started writing in 2008 when I was in high school. I started writing this book immediately. My sister became pregnant, but I was not able to publish it also because of the reasons stated. So I published it in 2018, and then the organization was registered officially in 2019. Yeah. The main thing we do as a foundation is training and sensitization. We organize mentorship forums for the young girls. We also rehabilitate teenage mothers, where we identify those girls whose dreams were broken because of teenage pregnancy, and we try to talk to them and see opportunities of readmitting them back to school. Those that their years have gone, like you could find someone who dropped out of school more than 10 years ago. They're almost 30 years, but still their dreams are shattered. They don't know where to start. We help them to start projects like income generating projects and find their way, because they still have to live their dreams. We also donate sanitary pads and toiletries to girls in school, because most of the times when we speak to these girls, you realize the reason why they are getting pregnant is because they want to get some stuff like sanitary pads, and they end up being taken advantage of. So when we get the resources and support from people who buy sanitary pads, we give them to the school girls. In addition to training and sensitizing girls, we realize the problem of teenage pregnancy starts at home. For my region, especially for my community, it is a taboo for a mother to speak with their daughter on sexual matters, relationships, and stuff. So you realize a girl grows, they are teenagers, they don't have an idea of even when the periods are starting, they don't have an idea of what getting a boyfriend means. And we have been having those conversations with the parents, urging them to start the conversation with their girls, to speak to their girls, to be close to them. Because you realize if we don't speak to these girls at home, they will get peer influence from school. Because you can be sure there are other children and other girls who are coming from other places where these things are, they are not a taboo. So they will give them a wrong impression of what the reality is. So what we do is we organize forums for mothers. We speak to them, we challenge them to have the conversations with their girls, to talk to their girls, to be their best friends, so that when a girl goes out there and they are told things that are not good, they can come back and say, so-and-so asked me to do this, is it right? So-and-so was doing this, is it right? So that is what we usually do. We also speak to community leaders like the chief, because these are people who should take responsibility. When a girl is impregnated, the person who impregnates that girl is around the village. So it's upon the leadership, the local administration, to take action, to make sure this person is either made accountable, take care of their child, is even arrested, because in some cases these girls are minors, and it is against the law to impregnate a girl who is a minor. So we speak to those local leaders, challenging them to take action against the culprits. Every
teenage pregnancy has an undertone of very complex traditional masculinity in it, and gender bias. Because where there is a girl who is pregnant, there was a boy who was involved. There is no way girls can get pregnant, teenage girls, on their own. There must be a boy. That's simple biology. And therefore, in the community and in the society, we need to involve those men at two levels. The first level is the men themselves, who, in every sense of the word, especially in the African context, are the leaders of the community and in the society and in homes. So unless they understand that these daughters and these sons are equal in terms of they need to be given equal opportunities, then we are not going to win this war. Because in most cases, in most African communities, you found that the girl was secondary to the boy in terms of priorities. So you educate the boy, the girl can end up whatever she will end up. That needs to be challenged. And the way to challenge it is to approach it from the decision makers. If you don't do that, then the girl is not going to be given that much attention, and that is going to be very unfortunate. The second and the last one is we need also now to address the boy child in this way. most of these people are either, most of these girls are either impregnated by elderly relatives and all that, people of age, but also school going boys. So how do we do that? Number one, empower the boy child in this way by making sure that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, being in school at that age. Because if he is out there, then his sexuality is going to be not to be controlled. The third way is to make sure that they are accountable, as Daisy mentioned. If you ensure that they are accountable, then they are not going to mess around with girls. The truth is, in most traditional African context, the father is the leader and the decision maker. He is the one who decides where the resources are going. He is the one who holds the assets, the title deeds, the everything. He is the one who pays the school fees. So the role of the father is understanding the importance of the girl as much as the boy is important. That none is inferior to the other. That's the role of the father. The moment you make the community understand that the father is the girl is as important as the boy in terms of equal access to opportunities, especially education opportunities, then we'll have won this war.
We expanded the project from home to the village, now to the entire country. We reach out to girls in Kirinyaga, in Machakos, in Meru, in Nairobi, and most of these girls are needy. Most of these girls, especially the teen moms, their parents, you realize, they give up on them. When a girl gets a baby, most parents are not willing, by the way, to take the responsibility of raising the baby so that their girl can go back to school. So these girls need resources to go back to school, to be readmitted. They need the basic needs. The child also, their children who they are leaving home, need support. You realize some of these children, like you said, if they are not supported, they end up being victims of their mother's decisions. You realize a small baby, because when a girl who is 16 years old becomes a mother, surely that girl cannot even raise herself, leave alone raising another human being. So this baby now who is born by a teenage mom faces a lot of challenges: poor health, poor hygiene, lack of even basic needs like food and clothing. So sometimes when we go for such projects, we mobilize for clothes for the babies of these young moms, food stuff sometimes, and then now school fees for the young moms. But you realize there are so many cases. The numbers are overwhelming. So sometimes we want to support as many as we can, but we have the challenge of limited resources. Again, we need more volunteers. There is so much work out there. There are so many girls who need mentors, who need people who can work with them, who can keep them accountable, and we need more people to volunteer to this work so that we can reach more girls and impact more lives. So far we haven't seen resistance, because actually these mothers are crying, because you realize there's a trend. When you visit a home, you find where like 3 girls in that house have become teenage mothers. Like one girl became a teen mom, then the other one again became a teen mom, and then another one is a teen mom. So parents are so welcoming. They are like, you guys, you need to be coming often. There are other girls here who need to be asked to break the chain, because it looks like, because there is very little that is being done, especially in those places where traditions are still followed. There's even a very funny situation where when you go to a place where a girl has become pregnant, the mother is not even aware who is responsible for the pregnancy, because they cannot even they cannot even sit down and ask the girl who is responsible. It is that bad. So they prefer us now, people who are coming from outside, coming and having these discussions with their children, because they themselves, they cannot. So they have been so receptive. People are calling even me. They've been calling us, when are you coming? Schools are closing. You guys need to come and talk to these girls, because most of these teenage pregnancies happen during holidays. especially the long holidays, the December holidays. That is why COVID is not even making this situation any better, because they have children are at home almost full time. Thank God, because now they are back to school. But I can tell you, many girls did not go back to school after COVID because of teenage pregnancies. So the community has been receptive, the local leaders have been so supportive, the church leaders have been so supportive. Yeah. Christianity is about giving. Christianity is about compassion and being merciful. Luke 14:12, when Jesus was teaching, just to paraphrase, he actually challenged us that when you throw a party or when you make dinner, don't invite your rich neighbors, don't invite your friends, but reach out to the less fortunate. That is what he meant. Because what I understand is these rich neighbors and your relatives, it's not bad to have them over for dinner and stuff, but there are those that are needy, those that are praying and hoping God would come himself. But because God cannot come himself, he uses us to reach out to those less fortunate. So in this project, actually, like Fidelis said, it is about giving. If you are not a giver, it is going to be very difficult for you. You need to give your time, you need to give your resources, you need to even put in ideas, consultations, which are time consuming. So if you're not willing to sacrifice, because that is it, then you're not going to make it in this field of giving back to the community. It requires a lot of giving in terms of resources and time. But the Bible, from the word go, God is the one who started giving. He gave us his son Jesus Christ to die for us. So you cannot say you're a believer, but you don't want to give back to the community your time and resources. It is not going to add up.
It is about the action part of faith. You see, the Bible says that faith without action is actually dead. And we cannot keep on hoping that our girls are not going to get pregnant. We cannot keep on hoping that everything is going to work out right. Just like in politics, we must move out of our comfort zones and act, do something about it. If, like you see how Daisy was inspired to start the foundation because of her background. If you're facing something within your community, it is time to rise up and act. If you have passion in politics, it is time to rise up and act. Because if you do not act, as Christians, we'll leave a gap in that. Because if we do not exercise our faith, then there is not going to be any impact in the society.
God created us to be custodians of whatever we have. When you were born, or when you were born and everything is in your access, could it be your wife, your children, your resources, your jobs, your everything, you are custodians of everything that has been placed in your hands. And therefore, my faith is my children and the community around us, we are custodians of it as well. So if it goes haywire, against what is the expectation of God, or what God intended when he was creating us, then we are not very good custodians. So my faith is that even if I am doing other things in the corporate out there in business and in all other things, I should be concerned about how the society is growing up, how the society is developing. Are we raising the families that they're supposed to be raised? Because the family unit is very central and very key in God's environment and in God's economy. That's why the first person he created was Adam and Eve, and he told them, go multiply, but also subdue the world. Subduing means you take charge of it, but not necessarily in a way to rule over it aimlessly, but to make sure that it is growing and going in accordance to what God had intended it to be.
There is so much satisfaction when you see dreams being dreams that were almost broken being woken up. There is so much refreshing when you see girls who are almost giving up getting up and dusting themselves and pressing on. It is so satisfying. We have reached over 5,000 girls since we started this project in 2017. sometimes when I go back home, and some girls just approach me and say, you know what, you changed my life. You came and spoke to us in school, or there's a forum you organized in church, and you talked so much, and they remind you things you had even forgotten. It is so refreshing when you know you are reaching out to a generation, you're changing them, you're impacting them for the glory of God. There is no better way to explain the satisfaction that comes with that. Dreams being relieved, hope being restored, and girls that were almost giving up in life, getting the new strength to fight on.
I remember we went to Kericho, and I was addressing the boys. Like I said, for me, when we go to this initiative, I target the boys because, for lack of a better word, they're actually the impregnators. So you get a boy coming to tell you, man to man, even that girl who is being addressed there, I'm interested in her. Yeah, and we are actually sexually active. So if you have a conversation with that boy for 30 minutes or even an hour, and you can get into his thinking why that perspective is that, and he realizes the reason as to why he's so much focused in that area of his life, the sexuality, is because he has absolutely nothing else to focus on. But then you divert that attention to how much he can actually accomplish by using your life as an example, and you can see him swallowing that idea, and progressively you can see that he's resuming his education. How else can we change the community other than that way?
When you revive the dreams of a teenage mother, you see, a teenage mother already, the perspective is everything has come to a standstill. They don't even have someone to look up to. Maybe they come from a poor background and all. But even without giving them anything, even without economically empowering them, just telling them that you still matter, and you can pick up the broken pieces and even go back to school, and even talking to parents, telling them that if you are able, you can actually be left with that child at home and let your girl go back to school. I think telling those girls that it is okay to go back to school, and telling teachers to actually accept them, and parents and the community to accept them and nurture them, I think that has been the most important highlight, giving hope to those teenage mothers.
I think I have the most amazing team. You've seen them here, and a very supportive husband. They encourage me a lot. They support me. They give their resources and their time. You realize that all of us are professionals. We are in the career world, but they create time to join in when we plan for forums. That really gives me hope that we can do this despite the challenges. Also, God has been amazing. He has been opening doors in places you could not imagine. He has been with us, I can say, from the day we started. It has been progressive. Where we were yesterday is not where we are today, and that gives us hope that where we will be tomorrow is even much greater than where we are today. Yeah.
An internal resolve to make a difference in the context that God's put me in, because I think that's what we are created for. We are here for a number of years, and the Bible says that He teaches us to number our days so that we may gain wisdom. And what is wisdom? It is deciding or choosing between what is right and what is wrong. So in the years that God will give me, then that internal resolve to make a difference, even for His kingdom, is what drives me. Because as a Christian and as a person who God has saved from sin and from death, eternal death, then all you can do is make a difference in a small space with the gifts that God has given you. And it doesn't have, like I said, yes, an organization like this one requires resources, but as an individual person, you don't require resources to do that. You just need to adapt a person, one or two. Make this message known and shared, and we'll be home.
What keeps me going is, number one, I am a mother to a girl. So that motivates me even more to take part in this initiative. Number two is the impact this foundation has on generations. Once you impact one girl and she's able to make a choice she's empowered to make a choice when she's an adult, it has an impact on the children she is going to have, and that is going to be another cycle of successful people. So the impact it has on generations is one thing that keeps me going.
In terms of public participation, I would really like to challenge the youth, because in the past we've been told that we are the leaders of tomorrow, but I actually believe we are the leaders of today. Just to quote the former US President Barack Obama, he said that we are the change we would like to see. I am the change that I want to see in my family, in my village, in my country. Every youth, every individual is the change that they want to see. And we cannot afford to just sit down and complain from the comfort of our homes, from the comfort of our beds. It is about time that we woke up and take action. It is about time that we woke up and do something, be it in terms of politics and elections. There are so many youth who are complaining about bad leadership, and they are not even registered voters. They keep complaining about misappropriation of resources and corruption, but during the election day, they don't turn up to vote. People vote so much on Facebook and Twitter, but when it comes to the day of voting, they don't show up. I would like to challenge the youth. Take action. There is no amount of effort that is too small. Every little act of kindness, every little act of action, be it in terms of influencing decisions, raising your voice because of maybe misuse of resources, every effort counts. And our life will be changed. Someone's decision will be influenced. Someone will actually change their mind because you spoke up. And something will be salvaged. And at the end of the day, that is very priceless. You cannot put a price to that. Speaking up, rising up to the occasion, and stopping the talk and going to the ground and putting your ideas and your noise and your suggestions into actions.
We have a very powerful constitution as it now, the 2010 constitution, that gives us an allowance to actually participate in the governance processes, be it at the county level or even at the national level. So, and what has been happening is that we have left those public participation forums to people that, sorry to say that, but people that are actually not very enlightened. So when we come into towns and get educated, we no longer want to get involved in those governance processes. So budgets will be passed that are actually overestimated. The finance bill will be passed. It will become an act with overtaxation because we never asked any question. And we are the people who will be affected by these laws. So I would want the youths to actually participate in those forums and ask questions. Do not fear to raise your hand and ask questions in those forums, because people go there and they are just paid. If there is transport fee, you're just given your 500 and you don't even realize what is in the budget. But if you have the youth, and actually the youths are the ones that are educated and more enlightened than our folks back at home. If we participate in those forums, we can ask the right questions. Yeah.
And the constitution makes public participation as a mandatory process in almost everything in the governance process. But people don't know. Why don't they know? Because the leaders don't want them to know. Today is not like in the 90s and in the 80s when you only had to wait for KBC or VOK or the mainstream media to air your grievances. Today there's a social media. Sometimes back last month, the government raised the cost of fuel, petrol. And of course there is the rising cost of crude oil in the international market, and of course the strengthening of the dollar during the COVID. But there is also excessive taxation. Then people made noise, and because of that, for a month the government did not increase the fuel. Why? They talked with the they negotiated with the oil marketers, the OMs, and they had to agree on that. That's how powerful the voices of the public are. Now the problem with us as a country is that the silent, or rather the middle class people, the people who are paying for government, the people who are fueling government, who are paying taxes to KRA, through VAT, through the pays and all those custom importing cars and all that, are not participating enough in these processes. When the county government is running those participatory meetings and rallies to even have the input of the public in how development should be done, they are quiet in the offices and behind Twitter tags and all that. But they are not going there. But that is what the Constitution requires of us. Because someone said that the 2010 Constitution of Kenya is activist in itself. It empowers everybody to be a leader, to put everybody else who has been given administrative power into accountability. But we are not doing that. So what would I tell the person, the professional, that person who is employed in that bank, in that school, in that office? Just look at your payslip at the end of the month. Check, or when you are returning your taxes, like now, when you're doing that to the KRA, filing, yes, you will realize how much you are paying and fueling to the government is when you rise up and realize this is actually your money. So if you participate, it means you are actually making a decision in how your taxes are being utilized and how your government decisions are being made. If you are silent, then it means it might be misused. Bad laws are going to be formed. Who is going to exactly? Jesus was activist. In this sense, first of all, he made people change their mindset to what they perceive the society to do. Like in terms of women involvement and engagement, it was inconceivable in that culture that you could involve women the way he did involve them, and they were very frontline in terms of in his ministry foundations. So my message to the church and to the believers: let's get out there and take charge and influence the world, influence our country, influence the policies, influence the governance structures to what Christ intends us to do. And we have the Holy Spirit to enable us to do that, because we cannot do it on our own. We cannot absolutely do it on our own, because like the Bible says that this war is not carnal. So we also need to be on our knees, but also we need to wake up and go and make that change.
I believe each one of us comes from a village or an estate or a community. We all come from somewhere. And if each one of us looks back to where they are coming from, there is surely something you can do. There is surely a gap you can fill. And I would like to thank everyone that is doing something to give back to the society. To those who are yet to start, I would like to challenge us. You can do something, however small or big it is. As I said earlier, there is no effort that is too small. There is no act of kindness that is too small. You can join a group that is already impacting the community. You can actually mobilize a group of friends, a group of people you come from the same place with, go back there, identify a gap, and do something. And just as a parting shot, there's a lady who inspires me a lot. It's called Caroline Mutoko. She once said, you should make time. Because if you don't make time, a time will come and you will run out of time. We are not growing any younger. And when you look back to 10 years ago, it looks like it was yesterday. But we are all 10 years older. 10 years from today, we will be 10 years older. Time is not waiting for no man. And I would like to challenge us, start today. Start now. Start where you are. And begin engaging. Begin speaking, begin doing something, because it is never too late to start. We invite everyone out there who is interested in giving back to the community and who would like to join us in our foundation, Dear Little Sister Foundation. We have a Facebook page, Dear Little Sister Foundation. We have a website, Dear Little Sister Foundation. You can also reach us on Twitter. we have at Dear Little Sisters, and you can reach us through phone. We have contact information on our website. You can send us email to info@dearlittlesisters.org, and we will be so glad to partner with you. You can also buy 1 or 2 or more copies of Dear Little Sister book, because 100% of the proceeds from the sale of this book goes to our foundation, to reaching out to young girls and to young moms. So you can support the project by buying this book. You can also join us as a volunteer.
The Fellowship of Christian Unions, reaching students, changing nations.